Hi, fifth graders. Welcome to week 7 of distance learning. We are most of the way into May now. Today's Monday, May 11th, by the time you are watching this, and we are in week 2 of natural resources. And so this week, we're going to dive more into what natural resources are, kind of separating out renewable and non-renewable resources, and kind of talking about the pros and cons of both. But we're actually going to start this week with Minnesota and how Minnesota is actually a mining state, and we actually mine for some natural resources here. So that's where we're going to start. So again, I'm going to shrink myself into the corner here as I pull up your slideshow for this week. As always, we're going to start with a couple reminders. The first of which is that this week you are actually going to have 2 different assignments. Now, they are both shorter. They should take about the same amount of time as your last week's one assignment took. So they are 2, but they both are shorter. So it shouldn't take you all too long to get those done. But please make sure to get them both in. Now, as always, you should do these videos first. You should do the reading first. And then do the work, and then do the homework for the week. The reason being is because oftentimes this is here to help you. This is how class would normally go, right? We have some instruction time, we maybe watch a video or two, and then we get off into doing our homework. We don't jump straight into the work without getting the lessons first. So please make sure you do the lessons first. As always, you can visit my distance learning page for those optional videos that should be helpful, especially if you're a bit confused on things. I do like to put some extra resources on there for you. As always, office hours are from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, Monday through Friday. So please come join us, even if it's just to say hello. We miss you. So come in and say hi. We will be doing a virtual lunch again this week on Thursday from 12 to 12:30. You can use the office hours link to join us there. We had a great turnout on Thursday last week, so thank you for coming. It was really fun and great to see you guys eating lunch and us eating lunch too. It felt kind of like the cafeteria and got really noisy, so I loved it. And then also Friday fun office hours is again this week on Friday. That's that 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock time. For this one, you will need 2 devices. So meaning you will probably need like a Chromebook to join the office hours in and to watch something. But then you'll also maybe want like a device like a cell phone or an iPad or whatever other device you have. So if you're able to kind of hog 2 devices for a little bit, it'll definitely be worth it. So let's jump into natural resources. So natural resources are things that we use from nature, again, such as wind energy, water, plants, animals, fossil fuels, to make things that we need on Earth. These are what natural resources are. They come from nature. They are the basis of life on Earth. And then we kind of separated it into 2 different categories. We have our renewable energy resources and our non-renewable energy resources. And again, some renewable energy resources are things like wind power and those wind turbines. Geothermal, remember that means heat from the earth. Think geology kind of as a study of our earth. Geo is earth, thermal. Water is a renewable energy source when we are able to harness wave energy and through dams and things like that. Biomass, meaning crops, trees, things that we grow, even animal and livestock is considered biomass, and solar. Some non-renewable energy sources, again, are those fossil fuels. So oil, coal, and natural gas are your 3 fossil fuels. Nuclear is also a non-renewable energy source. We didn't really get into too much last week, but I did want to point out that it is a non-renewable source of energy. Now, in Minnesota, we actually have a very rich history of mining. This is mostly up near the North Shore a little bit, so up in what's called the Mesabi Iron Range. We mine for iron ore and taconite. Now, these are things that we get from the ground. So anytime you mine, you are digging into the ground to get out these resources. Minnesota is actually the largest producer of iron ore and taconite. So what happens is that when we blast this rock from the ground, we start to create these taconite pellets that are used to make steel. Like I said, this still occurs in the Mesabi range, and it's used to make anything out of steel, which is a ton of stuff. Buildings, paper clips, tools, bicycle, furniture. When it comes out of the ground, it does not look like steel. It has to go through a process where they actually extract the iron from the actual rock. And so this is a multi-step process where it starts with kind of a big rock, and then it eventually gets into these pellets that are magnetic and used for anything that you're making with steel. Now, another thing that we mine for are granite and limestone. Now, you may have granite countertops in your house. This is kind of the picture on the top right here. And they can come in a variety of different colors. They are a lot of times used in the construction of homes. They are used for buildings and roads and tombstones. They're often mined in large blocks from a quarry. So in the bottom left here, you can see a picture of a St. Cloud granite quarry. Um, and so in the St. Cloud area, these quarries still exist. A lot of them are not in operation any longer. And so what happens is they tend to then fill up with water. So kids actually, well, not kids, hopefully families, you can go swimming in the quarries. And so they have, of course, super steep walls because they are just giant pits of water. But they don't have any like gross plants usually growing or anything like that, no seaweed. But if you're not a strong swimmer, I definitely suggest a life jacket because they have those steep walls and it's essentially all a deep end. But they are kind of a neat place to hang out. And some of the last things that we mine are sand, clay, and gravel. Now you might be thinking, why? Well, clay is actually used to make bricks, tile, and even some medicines. This is found in the Minnesota River Valley. So this is more in the southeastern portion of our state where we have this river valley and it has this really fine clay. We actually used clay too in the fall when we were doing our stream tables. So some of this clay was from that region as well. Remember, that was almost like the chalky, powdery, white, very, very thin particles. We do also mine for sand and gravel though, and this was left behind by the glaciers. So in the fall, we also talked about how Minnesota used to be covered by glaciers. And so as those glaciers receded, they left behind the sand and gravel. So this is something that happens all over Minnesota. This is one of our most commonly done mining tools, and we also use a ton of it. We build highways, roads, bridges, and buildings. We use it to make concrete. So those are kind of the big things that we mine for in Minnesota. Now, for your first assignment this week, I'm going to try and keep this video short because your assignment, you actually are going to be watching 2 additional videos. Now, you're going to watch these 2 videos and you are going to write a pros and cons list for mining in Minnesota. Now, the links to the videos are going to be posted under the assignment, as always, and they're going to ask you, well, what are some good things about mining? Why do we do it? And I want you to come up with at least 3 things about why we mine in Minnesota. But then you're also going to kind of hear the downside, the cons, the bad things about mining in Minnesota. And again, I want you to type right in the document provided. Don't print it out and write it and take a picture and upload the picture. That seems like so much more of a process. So when you go into the Google Classroom page, you are going to see under this week your 2 assignments. Now, mine look a little different than yours right now because they have not officially posted yet. But this is what I'm talking about right now is the Minnesota mining pros and cons. So it says to watch the 2 YouTube videos linked below, then under the Your Work section on the top right, you can open up the assignment. Your task is to create a pros and cons list about mining in Minnesota. What are the good things? What are the bad things? And you have at least 3 of each. So you're going to see kind of 2 different perspectives here in the video. And then you're going to open up your own document and you are able to type right in here. Okay, what are the pros, the good things, and what are the cons, bad things? You can totally list more than 3 things. Normally when I do this in the classroom with you guys, we build a list all together and there's probably 12 to 15 things on each side. So please make sure that you are really using your resources. You can do some outside research. There's a ton of newspaper articles about this topic as well. But that is kind of a neat resource for you. While I'm here, I'm just going to open up your other assignment just so you're not too scared away. So the Minnesota mining is actually your bigger of the 2 assignments. I would suggest getting that one done after you watch this video today because next video on Wednesday is kind of just a recap and kind of talking about pros and cons of natural resources versus renewable resources and non-renewable resources. So all this is just a short matching of vocabulary terms. If you did the Quizlet work last week, this should be pretty easy for you. Again, you're going to open up your own copy of this, and it is kind of small. It's kind of hard to read the way it is now. So you're going to click on this little plus button up here. It's a magnifying glass, and we can zoom in. Okay. Then you can kind of scroll up and down. So you're just going to click in each box and you're going to type your answer. So you're going to find the answer for what is a natural resource. You're going to double click, get rid of my typing, and write your letter there. Now, I think that is all I wanted to show you for today. So on Wednesday's video, I will actually show you what some iron ore and taconite pellets look like. So I actually was able to get some from the Minnesota Mining Association. Yeah, they do have one of those. And so I was able to kind of get a glimpse of each of the 4 different stages. And so I will show you that on Wednesday's video. So you have a little something to look forward to there, as well as a little bit of a reminder about how this kind of goes. So again, please let me know if you have questions about the assignments, because again, there are 2 this week, so please get those done. This is a pretty highly debated topic about mining in Minnesota. A lot is on the line, and you're going to hear about that coming up in those videos through the assignment. And it still is being talked about to this day. If you are a fan of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, there is definitely something to be said about mining in Minnesota and how that would affect that area as well if you're into camping and nature. And it's kind of about the economy, meaning money, versus wildlife. So it's really something that people need to think critically about. And you're going to be making decisions about these kinds of things in just 10 years or so when you start to vote, when you start to decide who gets to make the decision. So it's good to be informed. It's good to be knowledgeable about both sides. So please make sure that you are looking in depth and really thinking critically about these things and knowing where your resource is coming from. So that is all for today's video. I hope to see you in the office hours or lunch soon or Friday Fun Day. I missed you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.